Hello and welcome to this video introducing basic PDF remediation for accessibility. My name is Jeremy Webster and I am here to show you how to remediate a common PDF document for assistive technology. So let's get started. What I have here is a sample 2-page PDF that has a number of items that you'll find commonly throughout most all of our PDFs. You have a heading, you have several subheaders here, you've got normal text, you've got an image. Here we've got a list, and at the bottom on the second page we have a very simple table. So we're going to take this document and we're going to make it accessible to screen readers. So the first thing we need to do in order to remediate this document is add a number of tools to our Acrobat Pro DC. They do come with it, but you have to activate them to have them in the toolbars. So we're going to go over here and we're going to start on the right side. These are our normal tools that we use to do a variety of different things with these documents, but you might notice that there isn't one for accessibility. So let's go up to the upper left-hand side where it says Tools, and we'll click on that tab. And that gives us a menu of all the different tools that we can use in Acrobat Pro DC. We have the Search Tools bar right here at the top. In that, type AC. Basically, all of the tools we're going to need show up with AC in their name somewhere. We want to add the following ones: Accessibility, and we're going to add Action Wizard and Prepare Form, because even though we won't use them in this demonstration, they become useful when it comes to things like forms. Now that we've added our tools, we can go back to our PDF. And you'll see that on the side here we've got Accessibility, Action Wizard, and Prepare Form. So let's see what we can find out about this document and run an accessibility scan on it. Click the Accessibility tool, and that'll bring up our menu of items under the Accessibility tab. We want to do a full check. It'll pop up with this menu bar, and basically what that is it's giving you the different options of things it can look at. We really want to look at all of them, so you can just leave it like this and click Start Checking in the lower right-hand corner. So as we can see here, this document has a lot of issues. So when you run an accessibility check like this, when you see a red circle with a white X in the center, that is something that is basically a breakdown. It's not going to be able to be read by assistive technology because of this error. Items that are a blue circle with a question mark are things that the computer itself can't judge. They typically are things that have to be judged by the person doing it because it wouldn't know. For example, this is reading order. The computer doesn't know what order you want the material to be read in, so it can't make that decision. Same thing with color contrast. Of course, items with a green check mark have passed. And we can see we've got a whole lot of errors going on here. So now that we know this document has issues, let's go ahead and add the tools we need to the left side. So what we're going to do is we're going to right-click in this little field I'm in right now, and we're going to add the following buttons. We're going to add Content. Right-click again. Add Order. Right-click one more time. And add Tags. Tags is the most critical component that we're going to be working with in order to remediate this document. Tags are a sort of signpost, if you will, that tell assistive technology what a piece of content is and how to handle it. For example, a tag for a heading points out that a certain piece of text is a heading and it'll be handled like that, much like it would on an OU campus webpage. Tag for paragraph means regular text, and so on and so forth. So a lot of the remediation work actually comes from assigning tags to the document and classifying what kind of tag they are. And we can see here on this document that there are no tags available. So the first thing we need to do with this is have tags so that we can start working to make this document work. With a document this simple, the easiest thing to do to start out with would be Auto Tag Document. This is under the accessibility tree of tools. So we're going to go ahead and click that. You notice that the screen has changed on the left side. It just gives some various readouts on accessibility, but we really don't need to get into those. Click on the Tag button. Now, it won't show your tags initially when you look at that, but don't let that be confusing. If you click the drop-down arrow once to make it go back up and click it again to go down, you can see that we do have some tags going on here. So what happened here is the system has sort of looked at the document and tried to figure out what kind of tags should go in what places. Depending on the complexity of the document you're working with, sometimes it's really good at this and sometimes it can be iffy. What we're going to do now is we're going to go through and work with these tags to make this an accessible document. So the first item we have here, it says it's a figure. This figure is referring to the header letterhead that we have at the top here, the Wichita State University logo. You'll see that you have the tag and you have image. This is a typical structure. This is the tag that indicates what the object is, and the following thing that's subset under it is the object itself. Now in this case, the image actually wouldn't have any impact on a screen reader. It's just basically a logo. So what we want to do is tell the system that this is something it doesn't have to read back to somebody with assistive technology. So what we can do here is we come back over to our tools and we click reading order. Now you'll notice that the screen got really busy there with a lot of different numbers and boxes. Those are essentially the boxed off tags that we're going to be working with throughout the document. When we bring up reading order, we're telling it basically to show us everything. Now we want to set up this figure so that it's something that isn't going to be shown by the system. So you notice that the cursor is turned into a crosshair. Left click down and we're going to select that entire figure. You can be a little generous in the space when you select things with this because sometimes it won't find them if you're not. Okay, we've selected it. Now we're going to go over to our reading order menu and we have a button in the bottom right that says background artifact. Background artifact basically says that this image is either something that sits in the background or it's something left over from something else, but it says you don't have to worry about this. You don't have to read this to the person with assistive technology. So we're going to click that button and you notice that it's disappeared from the tag tree. So let's go ahead and close that. So you might notice that we have several tags here that say sect, as in section. What it's trying to do is it's trying to section the document out literally. This is very useful for things like longer documents, things like reports, things like books. In a document this small, though, it's really kind of overkill to go as far as to have sections. So as we go through and remediate this document, we're going to get rid of these section tags. Let's start up here at the top. Notice that we have a part tag as well. It's another sectioning off element, and we're also going to eliminate that as well. So let's start out by left-clicking on the H2 and going down to the bottom, SECT. Now, when you click on that, it won't highlight immediately. It will only highlight when you move your cursor away. So if you click on it, if you hit Shift-click and it doesn't select all, don't worry about it. It did, you just have to move away from it. I'm going to grab this with a left click and I'm going to drag it up the tree before the part. Okay, and now we can delete the part tag. And that just leaves us with the material. So let's expand the H2. The H2, which stands for heading 2, is for basic PDF remediation up here. Well, that is the title of the document, and as anyone who works in OU Campus can tell you, this is a title, and a title is not a heading 2. So we want to change that to a heading 1. So right-click on that tag and click Properties. See it says heading level 2. We're going to change that to heading level 1. Hit Close, and now it's a heading level 1. So we have our document title. Next is a P tag, that's a paragraph tag. And that's that first paragraph right after. That tag's good just the way it is. So let's go into our first section tag here. So again, we've got material that's sitting outside the tag. So what we want to do here is we want to close the paragraph tag, and we'll close up these that I opened. Shift left click to select the two things in the section tag and grab them and move them under the paragraph tag. Now, be careful not to subset them under. If you move right there, see how it's subset? We don't want to do that. We want it to be on a parallel level with the paragraph tag because it's the next thing. It's not part of the paragraph. Okay. It's a good idea as you get things done further up in the document that you close out the tags so you don't see the expanded view because you're going to need that room later. So we've got our heading 1, we've got our first paragraph, and we've got our tags in that paragraph. Now, you notice that we have a heading 1 followed by a heading 3, and we know that causes an accessibility error in OU Campus, so we need this to be a heading 2. So let's right click, Properties, and we're going to switch that to heading level 2. Okay. So our paragraph is okay. So let's close this up. And we don't need this sec tag anymore, so we're going to delete it. Now we come to the next sec tag and we want to do the same thing. Grab that content out of there and move it up. Be careful not to subset it. There we go. We can delete that tag. Once again, we've got a heading 3. It's actually a heading 2, so we go change that. And we have commonly used tags. Now, you notice we have an L tag here. That's because what follows it is a list. It's not a paragraph per se. And inside this, we'll find that it's segmented all of these up into little separate bite-sized chunks. LI stands for list item. List items will be subset under the list. They're not parallel. They're not on the same plane. You have to subset a list. And you see that we've got the 1 and the 2. And again, this is a level of complication that this document really doesn't need. So we're going to simplify this. We're going to make each line a separate item. So let's close this up for the moment. Now, in order to make these a separate line each, we want to open reading order again. And we're going to highlight each one and be generous in the space. And we're going to click text paragraph. And an entire line becomes a piece of text paragraph. Now you may be asking, why are you choosing text paragraph and not list item? Because list item isn't a choice in this menu. We have to change it to a list item at a different point, but it's easy to do, and we'll get there in a minute. First of all, let's grab these and change these to paragraph text. There we go, we've got them all done. So let's close that down. Now when we look in our list, we're going to find that each one of those has become a separate line. So what we need to do is convert these to the list items. And in order to do that, we want to go to each one of those tags and change them from paragraph to list item. So let's open the first one here. That's paragraph. We can grab the object itself and we can just move it up like this and subset it under the list item tag, and we've got it. Delete the paragraph tag, and we can do this with the whole list. Okay, so now if we click on the list heading at the top, which shows the whole thing, there's our headline, okay, and it's going to cycle through each of those items. And we have our list. We're going to close this up. Now we start on the next section. You see that we have a table at the end. That's our table there at the very bottom. That's considered part of this section. Once again, we're going to move all the content out of that section tag. Like so. Delete the section tag. And we're ready to go. Just like before, we've got a heading 3 that should be a heading 2. There we go. Close that up. We have our paragraph to review the tags in the PDF, etc. That can stay just the way it is. And next we have an image. This is an image we actually want to keep because it's indicating something in the system. So let's say we need to give it alt text. Once we give it alt text, it'll be fine and accessible. Right click on this. You'll have properties at the bottom. It says it's a type figure. And we need alternate text right here in this box. In this case, it's a screenshot showing no tags are available. Okay, hit close. We have alt text. Next up, we have another letterhead with a logo, and we can do the exact same thing here as we did to the first one. We are going to mark it as background artifact. We're done with that. See, it's not there anymore. Next, we have tables versus list, and we have a table here. So first of all, this is not paragraph. This is another heading 2. And then we begin working with the table itself. So this is the overall table tag, and underneath each of these TRs means table row. And each of the TD means table data. Now, this could be remediated as a table, but the table is very, very simple. And a lot of times with a simple table, it's better to give it as a list than it is a table itself. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this table and we're going to make it 2 lists that effectively compare tables with lists. How do we do that? First of all, we need a list tag to begin with. So right click on H2 and click new tag. We're going to, yep, it's already in the drop down menu. We've got list. And what that does is it's going to insert a list tag. Now it doesn't highlight anything because it doesn't have any objects under it yet, but we're going to change that very quickly. So let's say that tables and lists, as far as that goes, we don't really want them to be just part of the list, but let's say we want to make them a subhead of their own. An H3, if you will. We can do that. We come up here to the TD tag, and we switch to properties, and we switch them to a heading level 3. So now what we're going to do is we're actually going to make 2 lists and not just 1. And you think, well, we've got that list tag way back there. How are we going to work around that? So let's grab our 2 H3 headings like this, and we're going to move them above the list. Sometimes this will happen with a document where you're working and you realize that there's an easier way to do something while you're in the middle of something else. Don't be scared of that. Just go with it. And a lot of times you'll find it works out for you in the end. So now under this H3, we're going to add another list tag. So you see that we have tables and lists, both as heading 3s, and we've built our list tags underneath to build our lists with. So now we need our list items. Now this table row has nothing in it anymore, so we can delete that tag. So here's our first 2 items, and note that it's reading left to right and not up to down. We need to keep that in mind as we build these lists. So let's switch this TD here to a list item. We can do that with the second one as well. Now we need to put those under the corresponding heading 3s. So we know that this first one goes under table, so it's under the first one. So we move it up. Now remember that this has to be a subset of the list. It can't be parallel with it. See this? If I dropped it here, it would be parallel with the list. We want it to move in as a subset. We'll do the same with the second one in the next list. That tag is now empty and we can delete it. Next set. We're going to do the same thing. Those are both now list items, so we're going to put them in the corresponding lists. That tag is now empty, so we delete it. And we have the last set here. Move those up. We have nothing in this table anymore. We can delete it. So now, instead of going left to right and such, it gives 2 comparative lists. So we have tables, each item for tables, and we have lists, and each item for lists. So now if we run our full check on accessibility again, suddenly all those errors are gone, but just several. Now I want to point this one out, logical reading order. This is very important at this point. Basically, this is the order in which the material is read or presented to the person with assistive technology. You may think, well, I've gone through this entire document in order. Surely it's in the right order. Don't be so sure about that. And here's a good example of why. Over here, above the tags button, you'll see this, and it's a page, and it looks like it has a Z. That's the order button. It's going to show the order in which the material is going to be presented to somebody with assistive technology. So we're up on page 1 here. It has the image. Now the image is in background or artifacts, so it isn't going to come up, but it will still show it in this content pane. Usually it doesn't matter where it turns up because it's not going to show it to them anyway. So far, as we cycle down, everything looks good. It's going in the order it should. But when we get right here, note that the order it has is still the order of the table. It's not ordered like a list. So we need to change the order over here so that it reads it to them in the order of the list and not the table that was originally there. In order to change that, we simply grab these and move them. So after tables, we should have what looks here, item 5, require tagging each individual, etc. So we'll grab that, we'll move it under 3, and see how it became 4. We'll grab 7 here, we'll move it under 4, and note that the numbers are changing as you reposition it. That's because it's giving it a different reading order as it goes. That can be confusing if you don't know it's going to change the numbers on you. Okay, we want to grab 9. So now when we scroll through it, we have our heading and we have the 3 items in the list, and we have the next heading and the 3 items in that list. So now the reading order is what we need it to be. So let's go back to our full check. Does it have a logical reading order? Yes, and we made sure it did. And you want to always do that. Make sure it's going to read it to them in the order that you need it to. So we'll tell it pass. Primary language. Primary language in many documents isn't saved. What you want to do there is right-click and click Fix. It'll pop up with a dialog button. In this case, it says English. That's all right. We tell it OK. Title. This is an overall document title. It's not the same as the file name. In many cases, you can also right-click and hit Fix. In some situations, you'll be presented with a dialog box where you can select the title that you want it to have. We'll click Fix here and see what it does. Okay, we didn't need to. It saved the basic PDF sample. And finally, color contrast. In this case, most of our text is black on white, but what if we had something that had more color, like say with a theme? Then we need a color contrast tool to check it out. One free tool that I use in order to check color contrast is called Color Contrast Analyzer, which I'll bring up here. Basically, it's very simple to use. You've got a foreground color and a background color. You have an eyedropper here, and the eyedropper is how you take the sample of the color you're comparing it to. So if I click that, I get a circle, and I could click on, say, the black here. That's my color 1. My white is my color 2, and it passes. So you'll see here that we're showing a problem still under lists. Let's go ahead and mark pass on color contrast. List items failed. Why have the list items failed? Let's go have a look and see. So, as you see here, we have list 1, 2, and 3 for that first list. Can anyone tell me what's wrong with it? If your guess was it wasn't put under the list, you are correct. This is why it's important to subset those elements like that, because if they're not, then they won't work. So we select the 3 of them, we pull them up, and we put them in that subset. Now they occur in the list. So let's go see what it says now. Our list is taken care of and our document is fully accessible. If we want to save it, and now we have a PDF document that is fully ready for assistive technology. Thank you for watching and have a great day.